Welcome to the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Tyler Keefe alongside Erica Jones in the studios of our flagship stations, 89.3 Lakes FM and Civic Center TV. In addition, today, as always, in the Birmingham Bloomfield area, we're on 88.1 WBFH The Biff and Birmingham Area Municipal Access. On our local community television stations, you can find those Comcast, Channel 15, and AT&T, Channel 99. We're also on the web, civiccentertv.com. Click on our Watch Live link at the top right of the page in your web browser or on the left side on your mobile phone, or view us on Facebook, facebook.com/CivicCenterTV15 and facebook.com/LakesFM. And in addition, today, as always, we are on My Michigan Television, mymitv.com, mymitv.com. It is Michigan content from all across the state, and you can find that not only on the web, but also on your mobile phone, on your smart TV, and all throughout the web as well. It's on iPhone, it's on Android, it's on Android TV, Roku, and so on and so forth. For more information, mymitv.com. And as always, you can find information on the coronavirus and other top stories each and every day on our website at civiccentertv.com/coronavirus. There we have links to reputable resources on COVID-19 straight from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the state of Michigan, Oakland County, and many of our local municipalities. And we have our top headlines each and every day that we go over here on the program. And today, making headlines, the COVID variants are forcing the concert industry to rethink their approach. This is from the Detroit News. After swinging open its proverbial doors to fans in June, the concert industry is rethinking its approach to the Delta variant as the Delta variant surges across the country. As the numbers worsen, some artists and venues are tightening restrictions that were dropped perhaps too early as artists and fans start filing back into venues and are now requiring fans to show proof of vaccination or a negative COVID test before gaining entry into their shows. That's the case for this week's Dave Chappelle shows at the Fillmore, Detroit. The comic kicked off a run of 7 shows at the venue with back-to-back concerts on Tuesday, and fans are required to take a rapid COVID-19 test before gaining entry into the venue. Concert promoter Live Nation announced last week it will also allow individual artists to mandate whether concert goers will need to provide proof of vaccination or a negative COVID test in order to be admitted to their shows. There were no mask mandates or vaccine requirements at Comerica Park at Sunday's Guns N' Roses concert, which drew an estimated 20,000 hard-rockin' fans to the home of the Detroit Tigers, or on Tuesday's Hella Mega Tour stop featuring Green Day, Fall Out Boy, Weezer, and a crowd of 32,000 fans, including Erica Jones. Some venues are taking matters into their own hands. Detroit's Marble Bar, Ferndale's Magic Bag, and Smalls and Hamtramck are all requiring guests to be vaccinated or provide proof of a negative COVID test in order to enter. Of course, last month's Faster Horses Festival at Michigan International Speedway in Brooklyn was the state's largest concert gathering since restrictions on capacity limits for outdoor gatherings were lifted at the beginning of July. The 3-day concert music festival drew an estimated 40,000 fans, and after an outbreak was traced back to the event, the Michigan Health Department officials encouraged concert goers who attended the festival to get tested for COVID-19. A reported 96 cases of COVID have been traced back to Faster Horses. Dr. Preeti Malani, who we've had on the show numerous times, Chief Health Officer at the University of Michigan, said a cluster outbreak at Faster Horses indicates people in rural areas need to get vaccinated in order to continue attending events. And this is the new trend that we'll be seeing much more often as COVID-19 variants continue to take a toll in our local community, and we address this latest surge in COVID cases, and as people continue to want to go back out into their regular lives and have these experiences like going to concerts. And I mentioned while reading this article from the Detroit News that you can find on our website at civiccentertv.com/coronavirus that you had gone to last night's concert at Comerica Park with Green Day and Weezer and Fall Out Boy. What was the experience like there for you going into the concert and having to go through those checks, and then after you've gone through the doors and the concert goers are having their fun and enjoying the music?
Tyler, I knew where this was going the second I read this headline, but had a great time last night. First of all, I don't think Comerica Park has been so packed since the 2013 postseason. Yeah. The Tigers don't need to worry about social distancing or COVID protocols because those games are about 1/4 full on a good night. So for concerts, it's a completely different ball game. No pun intended. A little bit intended. But yeah, totally packed last night. And there was really no, you asked me what was it like going through security, the checks. I mean, there was no COVID checks. It was, you'd think that COVID didn't exist. I actually was on the floor, or I guess the field seats. Okay. Like I said, it was packed, and you wouldn't have known that COVID existed. People were just having a good time. I'm vaccinated. I did feel safe, honestly, but I guess now this morning that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, maybe that was a little bit excessive considering the situation that we're still in, but I had a great time, definitely. And yeah, I guess thinking about it now, I don't know if the people sitting next to me were vaccinated. And I mean, the seats were so close together. They literally had them, the floor seats, like I don't want to say zip tied, but they had them like connected with
connected for security purposes.
Connected. Yes. So like you were on top of the person next to you. Minded, of course, on the floor. You're standing a lot, but still, no form of social distancing, no way to make sure that people were safe from COVID in any way, shape, or form. It was like 2018. So had a great time. Thankfully, knock on wood, I'm going to be safe, but it'll be interesting to see if we hear news of other COVID outbreaks from it. And I also think it's interesting, one thing that you mentioned, that individual artists are having the opportunity to decide whether or not they want to.
Any concerts through Live Nation,
oh.
they're allowing the artists that they are promoting when they're negotiating their contracts with these venues to decide whether or not they want to have any special restrictions in place. So for example, Guns N' Roses said, no, we're not going to have any restrictions in place, but other artists that are listed in this article from the Detroit News did say that they have special requests in place for requiring vaccinations or requiring masks to be worn if you're not vaccinated, or both, regardless of vaccination status, you need to be wearing a mask. So in the case of Live Nation promoted concerts, that is the status quo. It may also be the status quo for artists that are independently going to these venues, but it's one of those things that I think we are going to see be popping up more often, depending on what these artists are comfortable with. It also mentioned earlier on in the article that it's a similar situation down at the Fillmore in Detroit with Dave Chappelle's shows.
Yeah, and I also think it's really interesting because, there's two ways of looking at it. On the one hand, these artists don't want to impose these restrictions and then limit their audience or make fans angry. But on the other hand, you also don't want to be the show that's tied to a COVID outbreak. So there's definitely two different ways of looking at it, and I think that's a decision, obviously, that these artists aren't going to make themselves, but their management, and there's a lot that goes into it. But the approach could be relooked, and even more so about the masks. Maybe in the crowd of over 30,000 people, not that I saw everyone, but I spotted 3 wearing masks. So let me go back on when I said there was no one following COVID protocols, maybe 3 people out of the 30,000.
Yeah, and that's the double-edged sword of the situation here, is because on the one hand, with the vaccination rate that we're at, with where the state health department and the CDC had previously gauged the COVID-19 situation being, they deemed it to be relatively safe enough to reopen these venues and have these concerts and other events outdoors within certain capacities or with no capacity limits whatsoever, as long as there are precautions being taken to ensure that the unvaccinated are taking precautions themselves. But on the other hand, people are going to do whatever they so please in these situations, and even if they go through and they have a negative test, or they claim that they're vaccinated, or they say, sure, we'll wear a mask, not everybody's going to participate. And on top of that, these concert venues and these artists have been out of commission for so long because of the pandemic. They're trying to recover as best as they can, and the way you do that is to get as many people to your concerts as you possibly can. So it's going to continue to be, like everything else in this situation, a matter of continued analysis, a lot of change as time goes on, and ultimately balance. More news on our website, civiccentertv.com/coronavirus. Schools should mandate masks, Beaumont Health infectious disease specialist says. This is from the Detroit Free Press. The director of the infectious diseases research at Beaumont Health said Tuesday that schools should be mandating masks when they return for classes this fall. In a quote from Dr. Matthew Sims, who has two school-age daughters himself. The fact of the matter is it just takes one or two cases to start ripping through schools. And those kids can then take it home, spread it to their parents, to their families, their grandparents who are older and maybe more vulnerable. It's just a danger that there's no reason to take if you know, making this optional. He then continued on and had a further quote that you can read in this article from the Detroit Free Press. Tension is growing around the question of mask mandates for school children ahead of the new school year. Children ages 12 and older are eligible for the COVID-19 vaccine, while those younger than 12 are not. The U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention is recommending all students ages 2 and older, staff, teachers, and visitors to all K-12 schools, regardless of vaccination status, wear masks and take additional measures. The American Academy of Pediatrics and the Michigan Health and Human Services Department agree with the recommendations, but state health officials said they don't expect Michigan will issue a mask mandate. Some schools have said they are not going to require masks or that they would be optional. A Change.org petition with more than 2,000 signatures is asking the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services and or the Oakland County Health Division to mandate masks. In a quote from this article, quote, "We understand that not all of the recommended strategies are possible for every school to implement. However, at the very least, we ask you to order all districts to adopt the masking policies recommended by the CDC, MDHHS, and AAP until all individuals have an opportunity to be fully vaccinated." That from the petition started by Oakland County parents for safe in-person schools. In a continuation of that quote, "We also ask that you order Oakland County schools to work with the health division to assist them with efforts to contact trace and quarantine students as needed." On Monday, state and local public health officials urged parents to make sure their children were up to date on all immunizations such as measles, mumps, pertussis, chickenpox, and so on, in addition to COVID-19, before the new school year begins. State data shows that as of this past spring, childhood vaccination rates slipped below 70% in more than half of Michigan counties, said Dr. Jonae Caldoun, the state's Chief Deputy Director for Health and MDHHS Chief Medical Executive. So this is, of course, the big topic of debate as schools are scheduled to return, as the COVID-19 situation across the United States is looking a little more eerie as of late than it had earlier on in the summer. Is should we be requiring masks? Should we be requiring vaccinations? Should we be going back to in-person school altogether or continue on with a hybrid or a virtual format? Now, the general consensus seems to be from all walks of, from everybody involved, that in-person learning is necessary in the situation. We can make that work, but we need to take precautions, and that may require greater enforcement of mask mandates, sending kids home if their parents refuse to send them to school responsibly and take the precautions that are necessary and follow the rules that are in place, similar to what we see, and the common argument in this case is, well, if you can enforce dress codes so harshly and so strictly, why can't you implement these mask mandates as strictly, and if people are refusing to comply with them, send them home like you would in a dress code situation? This is going to be a big topic of debate as we continue forward toward the school year, and it's going to be something that is going to create a stressful situation returning to in-person learning for a lot of educators who it's not necessarily their responsibility to be enforcing this, but it ends up becoming their responsibility because they need to keep command of their classroom, keep themselves and their students and their families as well safe.
Interesting point you brought up with the comparison to a dress code situation. I hadn't thought about it like that before, but that also makes me think, and I don't know a lot about the legalities of this, but the private school versus public school type thing, because public schools don't really have I guess there's a difference, though, between dress codes and uniforms. If you're just talking about, girls have to wear shorts that are a certain length or you get sent home, that type thing, then yes, I totally understand why there'd be a parallel there. But maybe masks fall into more of a category of a uniform type thing, which is not something that a public school would typically do. Again, I don't know the legalities, so I can't speak too much on it. What I will say is that I agree with anyone who says in-person education, 100% necessary, more so than just books. The interactions that students have, young people, those are irreplaceable, and you're not going to get those anywhere else. Of course, it's no one's fault, and everyone's in the same boat with the fact that it's been this way, but we need to do anything we can to get the students back. And talking about the mask restrictions, I really think this is just one of those situations where we can talk about it all we want right now, but we're truly not going to know how it pans out until these students are back in the classrooms one way or another. And maybe we send them back, they don't require masks, they strongly encourage them, and hopefully not, but if there's then bad outbreaks and it's spreading, then they're going to change things. So again, we can talk about it all we want, but we're really not going to have, I think, the final answers and know exactly the approach we need to take until students are in the classrooms.
And another factor going into a lot of these decisions and enforcement is marked in our next article on civiccentertv.com/coronavirus. This is from John Osting and Robin Erb from Bridge, Michigan Magazine. Michigan schools must teach in person, get a waiver, or risk losing funding. Michigan public schools are expected to offer a full week of in-person instruction this fall, and districts that close classrooms could lose critical state funding unless they obtain a special waiver, which may be hard to secure. Gone from the state's budget for the upcoming school year is the quote-unquote maximum flexibility the state gave school districts last year to hold school remotely as educators faced unprecedented global pandemic conditions and were forced to adapt on the fly. All this means is more uncertainty for superintendents who are already facing a barrage of angry parents, difficult decisions, and a rapidly climbing Delta variant-fueled COVID-19 spread. In a quote from Robert McCann, executive director of the K-12 Alliance of Michigan, quote, "Everybody's intention is to offer in-person learning," he said at an educational policy organization meeting. But he said if the local state health department orders a school or schools to close the doors because of spiking COVID cases, quote, "We don't have a lot of flexibility right now to accommodate that. What are we supposed to do?" And closed quote. For others, a limit on online learning is welcome news. Nicholas Bagley, a father of an 11 and 13-year-old who attends school in Ann Arbor, testified at the Michigan Senate Education Committee in February about the difficulties of remote learning. In a quote from that meeting, he said, quote, "My daughter used to love school. Now, when she trudges back to her bedroom, she says, 'Here comes more misery,' and closed quote. Many schools closed their classroom last school year to contain the spread of COVID-19, but countless children and their families struggle amid shattered routines and the social isolation of online learning. Depression and attempted suicides were up. There's evidence, too, of an increase in eating disorders among youth as some students neared their breaking point. In a quote from Bagley, who's also a law professor at the University of Michigan, quote, "School districts before the pandemic didn't have the freedom to shut down just because they felt it was unsafe," and closed quote. Schools that remained online or offered online instruction for limited hours a week have time and again placed the interests of their most fear-filled teachers over at the expense of their students, Bagley continued. He followed up by saying the budget change is, quote, "really a return to the status quo," in a tweet approving of the policy shift. The new law effectively restores the traditional requirement that districts offer at least 180 days and 1,098 hours of in-person in-school instruction, which had been loosened to allow for various forms of remote and virtual learning throughout the pandemic. Schools can still offer a virtual option this year, according to a recent guidance from the state, but parents must agree to virtual enrollment on a student-by-student basis. So this is another factor that goes into enforcement of those policies. Addressing mask mandates is, on the one hand, you are obligated to keep your students, your staff, your faculty, visitors to your district buildings and events and so on and so forth safe from public health scenarios. But on the other hand, you're risking losing already low funding, already in a situation that's been treacherous and has been difficult and has been incredibly challenging for these school districts to navigate. You're risking losing funding under these new conditions as time goes on. And so you're, again, dealing with that balance as you're planning to return for a school year where what looked like a decent situation a few weeks ago is looking a lot less favorable at this present moment.
Well, let me tell you, I'm glad I am not an educator in this situation, and very thankful for those that are. You and I obviously don't have the expertise to really speak on this or what it's like to be in this situation, but I know later in the show we're going to get the opportunity to talk to James Schwarz from Avondale, so it'll be interesting to get his perspective. And we talked to Pat Watson earlier, or last week actually, but he was able to speak a little bit. But definitely such a challenging situation, and really, like you said, it's not... These people aren't used to this being their job and having to control these types of things. So still so many unprecedented circumstances. Like you said, a few weeks ago, it looked like we were going to be just fine going into this school year, and it is changing not even just weekly, but daily. So we'll see, and we'll definitely get to that more later in the show as we talk with educators.
More headlines such as that and information on COVID-19 and more at our website, civiccentertv.com/coronavirus. You can also click on direct links that will take you to resources from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the state of Michigan, and local communities, as well as Oakland County, so that you can get information that's reliable and that is accurate and that is well researched about mask mandates, about the effectiveness of wearing masks in various situations, about vaccination, about the specific COVID-19 vaccines, their efficacy, who should get it, who shouldn't get it, what factors you should consider. You can get that information from reliable sources, and you don't have to go digging through the internet to find it. Just go straight to our website, civiccentertv.com, click on our coronavirus link, and at the very top of that page, we have reliable links with information directly from sources who are on the front lines of the COVID-19 pandemic. We're going to take a quick break, and we have a great show ahead of you. In the first hour, we'll be speaking after the break. Erica will be speaking with the Etiquette Guru, Stacy Ames, as we continue to navigate this COVID-19 situation, things reopening, socialization with our family, with our friends, with our colleagues, with other people begins to come back into the fold, and what we should be considering as we go into those interactions to be mindful of other people's comfort levels and to assure that when we come out of this pandemic and get back to socialization, we aren't making people uncomfortable, feel unsafe, and that we're being respectful of others as well. Near the end of the hour, we'll review one of our more recent interviews and explore how the continued conditions of the pandemic are impacting restaurants and our businesses in the local area. And then in the 11 o'clock hour, we'll speak with the chair of the Pontiac Regional Chamber, as well as the superintendent of Avondale Schools, and get a little bit of pinspiration, some art coming up as well. That on today's edition of the Megacast will return after this break.
Here's one more reason to get the COVID-19 vaccine. It's your shot to win. Anyone 18 years or older in Michigan vaccinated between December 1st, 2020 and July 30th, 2021 is now eligible to win millions in cash prizes, including $1 million jackpots and $50,000 daily prizes. And vaccinated students could win thousands in college scholarships. For eligibility details and to enter, go to mishottowin.com.
Can I ask you a question?
Why did you get your kids vaccinated?
It was hard for them to social distance, to be isolated from their friends.
I want them to get back to school and sports games. So as a pediatrician, I recommend the vaccine to everyone I know.
The boys lost a former teammate and classmate who was only 20 years old. It's been a devastating year.
We want to get back to normalcy. Our daughter is really looking forward to being with her friends, being a kid.
Can I ask you a question? Why did you get vaccinated?
I'd like to go to these school dances and spring break to have fun.
I want to be in person for college next semester.
I want to get out of this pandemic.
I wanted to protect the people around me.
Why did you get vaccinated?
Because I'm really looking forward to hanging out with my friends.
I just want to go to a show, dance around, not have to worry about anything, feel like I'm free again.
So we can not miss out on the best years of our life.
Welcome back to the Megacast. I'm Erica Jones in our studios alongside Tyler Kieft and Calvin Brown, and we have been out of the public for a very long time, and with that, it's easy for people to forget how you're supposed to act in public. Well, really you shouldn't. I think it's unexcusable, but I'm no expertise on that, so here to talk more about how we act in public, etiquette, we are joined by Stacy Ames, the Etiquette Guru, and my headphones just came undone. So, before we get to her, hi Stacy, can you hear me?
Yes, good morning.
Oh, well, I can't hear you, so just a second. 1 minute. Bear with me. Let's see what's going on. All right. How about now?
Good morning.
I got nothing. So sorry. We're just gonna do a little headphone swap right here. Maybe. Oh, okay. I see. All right. Okay. Third time's a charm?
Good morning.
Beautiful. All right. So that is starting off with etiquette. Not the best on-air etiquette, but it's fine. So the first thing I wanted to ask you this morning, actually, tell me, I'm just going to get right into it. What is the number one thing that just drives you insane when it comes to bad etiquette?
People not owning it, just doing it and walking away from it. And it bothers me that they don't even realize their poor manners. That bothers me. And then, of course, they're not apologizing for things when they need to if they're not taking ownership of it.
So give me a story. What first comes to mind when you think of a time? I want an example of a time that something like that happened where someone did something and just had no regard for the situation.
I don't have anything specific off the top of my head except this current situation where people aren't being respectful towards one another. They're just within themselves and not realizing the ramifications of their behaviors and actions. So, just simply people getting too close to other people, and, you can tell if somebody is uncomfortable if they start backing away from you. And there are a lot of cultural considerations. I mean, Americans' space is about 3 feet. That's where we're comfortable. Other cultures, that space varies. So there is that to realize, but if you're someone who's crowding someone and they're backing away from you, read the signs. You can read body language, back off, and we just need to be, especially right now, so respectful of individuals and their choices of what's happening with the vaccine and the masking and this and that. Everyone has their own reasons for doing what they're doing.
So with talking about going back into the office and people being together for the first time in a long time, not necessarily working on Zoom anymore, you come in, you're used to having conversations with your coworkers, talking to people. That's typical practices for the morning, but things might be a little different these days, not even necessarily just because of COVID restrictions, but maybe people are in bad moods. So you walk in, you see your coworker sitting there. Normally you'd go up and approach. Who's the one that's responsible for kind of reading the room? Do you see, maybe they don't want to talk, so do you just walk away, or do you approach them knowing that they might not want to talk and then they kind of give you the cold shoulder? Who's in the right in that situation, or how do you approach it?
Yes, I think read the room as best you can, but I believe just always be a positive force. If you get shut down, it's not your problem. You approach someone, you're friendly. Just reach out to people. Some people are in a bad way. Going back into the workplace, it's uncomfortable for them. So, seeing a friendly face, or, you don't have to get really close to them, but I say absolutely approach them, say good morning. If you've already said good morning to them and you pass them again, acknowledge them. You can look at them, and if they're looking down, again, it's not your problem. You're trying to reach out to people, but just being friendly and understanding, and, you're maybe that person that is leaving the door open. Or you could even say, hey, if you ever want to talk, give me a call or email me or come see me in my office, whatever the case may be. I think just being open with people, because there's a lot of crabby people out there, and it's understandable.
So then with more standard practices, things like holding the door open for the person behind you if you're walking. In a normal world, I would say you always, always, always hold the door for the person behind you. Maybe I'm wrong. You can fill me in on that. But in a COVID world, what does that look like? Is that the standard practice that you should always hold the door for the person behind you, grab handles, stuff like that? Or do you think that the standard for that has changed a little bit?
I hope the standard hasn't changed. We need to get back to what's normal. Yes, please still use your manners, hold doors open. The bottom line is you're washing your hands before you eat or do anything like that. So that's your protection there. We're not going to be able to live in a bubble. So our manners should come back to the surface because, remember lockdown. So many people were just longing for that personal interaction, and now's our opportunity to ease back into it. And it's going to take easing. I'm not going to say people have PTSD from this, but to some extent, This has been very difficult for people. So getting back to what's normal will bring a certain comfort level. And that's back to our manners, our basic manners. Yes, hold the door open for people. And let's try to get back to, some sort of normal. We're doing everything we can to try and shut this virus down.
So let's talk a little bit about indoor dining, going into a restaurant. Definitely something I do often. I'm happy it's something we're able to do. I'm going to call him out here. Our booking producer, Larry Nyland, the other night, went out to eat with a couple of his friends, and he told them he was getting there about 15 minutes late. They knew he was getting there late, and when he arrived, they had already ordered their entrees. That's not acceptable, is it?
I disagree with that. Yes, they should have been patient and waited for him, especially since he took the time to tell them, I'm going to be late. That was their mistake. They needed to wait for him.
So in a situation like that, do you think there's a unwritten rule of some sort to how late a person could be before you can go ahead and start ordering? Or maybe could they have ordered a couple appetizers for everyone to share when he got there? What should you do?
Since he took it upon himself to tell them, I'm going to be late, that's one situation. They were wrong in not waiting for him. If you have a question mark and you're not sure what is happening with the person, I say maybe give them 15, 20 minutes, and if they don't show up, I think you can just continue on. Maybe you want to start with appetizers to give them a little bit more time, but that's the person who's late. So, that's their bad. They should be calling someone and telling them I'm stuck in traffic or what have you, and if they're just a no call and then a no show, that's very rude to the people that are sitting there waiting, and rude to the restaurant to have you just sitting in there drinking water, So yes, I say go ahead and order after 15, 20 minutes if you're not sure what the other person is doing.
How would you say the standard is different with going out to eat with your friends versus first date? I want to talk a little bit about that. Let's just jump into it. First dates, what are the biggest things that people need to be aware of? What are things that you just know on a first date you need to be conscious of? As much as you want to be comfortable and be yourself, there are definitely certain things that you just gotta be a little more reserved with on a first date, like excusing yourself to go to the bathroom, or I hope you're never late to a first date, but stuff like that. Just talk a little bit about what first dates should look like from an etiquette perspective.
Yes, best manners, absolutely. You're not wanting to relax really at all, watching your conversations, the tone of them, what you are speaking about, being mindful of your vocabulary, not using a lot of slang, and really just being on your best behavior. And hopefully, if you are out to eat, you have some sort of dining skills or dining etiquette. And that's a good place to, I hate to say it, but you're sizing that person up. Because obviously if they're eating, like a slob, it's probably not going to get better unless they take it upon themselves to learn about it. So yeah, just being on your best behavior is really, as best to your just behave yourself.
Right? Okay, so here's this situation. Tell me your wash your alcohol. Well, hey, if the date's not going well, but all right, so let's say you're on a first date, they're a slob, it's going horrible, and you're like, there is no way I'm fixing this person, this is never happening again. At what point can you find a way to excuse yourself from this date? Like, it's so horrible, you need to get out of there, or do you have to just wait it out for the first whole date and then never talk to the person again?
I think if you're that uncomfortable and it's really going poorly, I would definitely, if you're at dinner, finish your meal and then take it outside and tell them, you have to leave, and you can make up an excuse. Of course, this is very important. You would never want to post anything on social media about how terrible your date was or anything like that. You don't want to, insult the person that way. But I don't think you have to, maybe your plan was to go to dinner and a movie. You don't have to complete that and go to the movie. If you're uncomfortable and it's not working out, just, you can just say, I don't see this working out. You don't have to play games with the person, and you can walk away.
So what about in a little bit of larger group situations? If I'm out to dinner with, 6 of my friends and I have to go to the bathroom, I'm probably not going to announce to the group, hey, everyone, I need to go pee. So do you just get up and leave and not tell anyone? Do you tell the person next to you? How do you approach that in a group situation?
If you have something to do, maybe you need to take a phone call or go use the restroom, just simply say, excuse me, and leave. They don't need to know the particulars, and you don't have to say anything more than that.
So when it comes to teaching people etiquette, what is normally your approach? How do you think you really ingrain that in someone's mind, the things they need to do? Is it a step-by-step process? Is it over time? Talk to me a little bit about how you do that.
Some of the skills, they are obvious and step-by-step. Here is how you do this. Here is how you are poised and walk and sit down properly, things like that. Other things, yes, it's over time. It's having conversations. It's hearing how they are approaching conversations or the back and forth. I feel like the younger people are at a little bit of a disadvantage. They are so reliant on the way they communicate with their phones that they've lost that personal touch. So their communication ways are questionable and they need some support. So for them, the people that are a little bit older and know better, it's just kind of pinpointing where they are dropping the ball. Again, it boils down to communication. Some people aren't good at it, but getting some sort of comfort level, and once they are receiving the tools and understanding it, that empowers them, and then they become better communicators. So it's just practice and going back and forth and practicing the skills. If that's what we're doing, you just have to practice these things until they're seamless and you don't have to think about them anymore.
So kind of on another topic, let's talk a little bit about, well, still going out to restaurants, but paying the bill. If you're out with a big group of people, is it, I don't want to use the word disrespectful, but poor etiquette, I guess, to ask for 10 separate checks, or even if it's 2 people? Do you think if you're on a date, is it the waiter's responsibility to ask about the check situation? Do you assume the guy's paying? Can you not do that? Just talk to me a little bit about different situations with paying the bill and how you should go about that to make sure you're being respectful to everyone.
I think it's helpful if you can communicate with people beforehand. But if it's, there's different situations, maybe you don't ever want to assume, obviously, but if I'm just big on communicating. If you're unsure, you could ask, hey, do you want to go Dutch treat? Does everybody want separate checks, or do we, maybe be the facilitator? Do you want to just separate the bill when we're finished? I was recently out to dinner, and this was a cute story with people, and I had never met this couple, and this gentleman is a mentor of mine, and I had never met him face to face, and the bill came, and I said, oh, please let us, my husband and I, let us get this, and he said, oh, no. And the funny thing is, I've never heard anybody say this. He literally said, money is no object. And I laughed and thought in my head, okay, well, then you get the bill. I didn't say that, of course, but we ended up just paying each our own, and it wasn't uncomfortable, and it was just that little bit of conversation needed to happen, and then everybody relaxes. I think when you don't communicate, that's when you freeze and are wondering who's paying, what should I do, and then that makes it uncomfortable. So just always open those communication lines, and maybe you just are steadfast. I would like to pay for myself. That's fine. It's not really that offensive if you're really wanting to, or you could say, well, if it's a date, I would like to treat next time, something like that. Or if someone wants to pay and they're adamant about it, you could offer, well, can I leave the tip then? So.
And then another situation that I always kind of think about, especially lately as we're going back into big crowds, concerts, sporting events, stuff like that. Let's say you're walking, you're on your phone, someone bumps into you or something. I hate it more than anything when the person will bump into you and then, they give you that look almost as if you did something wrong, and then they just keep walking. In a situation like that, do you stop and say, I'm so sorry, or what are you supposed to do? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's fine to just give them a dirty look and keep walking. I don't know. You tell me.
No, again, being that positive, nice person, that only harms you when you're like that. So I always just say, oh, excuse me, and just go my own way. I'm not going to get caught up in, wow, that was rude, or, say nothing, or do the old, excuse you, I've heard that, and that's that's kind of silly. So, just excuse me and move on. And it's just like I had someone road raging on me yesterday. And I know there's people that get so worked up about that. And, I was kind of monitoring my own heart rate in that. And I did have a little jump because it was quite aggressive, but I just let it go. You're not going to harm me because of your rage. You can't fix other people. You can only work on what's looking at you in the mirror.
So I was actually going to ask you that. With you being the etiquette guru, you obviously got to be on your best behavior, but are there times that even you're like, really kind of having to bite your tongue, just getting a little heated, wishing you could cross the line a little bit?
Of course. I'm human. I get mad. Absolutely. People are aggravating. So, just as best I can, maintaining myself. But yes, of course.
All right. Well, Stacy, just a couple more minutes with you this morning. One thing I do want to ask you, because I know, especially in today's world, coughing and sneezing is almost unacceptable in public. Normally, you cough, you sneeze, someone says bless you, but you excuse yourself. Are there situations where you're in a quiet room and you sneeze and you shouldn't say bless you if it's going to be more disruptive, or should you always? What's the right thing to do there?
I guess if it's going to be disruptive, I would stay quiet. That person already feels embarrassed too. So, if it was me doing the sneezing, I would quietly say, excuse me, and I would get up to go wash my hands or, go to the restroom, whatever the case may be. If someone else does it, I'm not going to shoot them a dirty look. These are, bodily functions that are in place. So you can't help it. And if you have to cough, nobody has to freak out. There's still allergy issues and things like that, or they may be getting a cold, or they may be getting COVID, but nobody needs to freak out because they already feel uncomfortable. I remember way back when this first started, I sneezed, and I was in the fruit and vegetable market, and there's a lot of healthy people in there. I've noticed not a lot of coughs and sneezes go on in there, so I felt just like I was like a spotlight flashed on me, but I just looked, I went to the bathroom, and there's nothing you can do, and people shooting you dirty looks is not helpful at all. There's really no call for that. But if you can quietly bless someone, that's always nice.
Well, I agree, and I think people need to remember that even in a pandemic world, we still get the cold, so it's definitely nothing crazy. But is there anything else you want to share this morning, talk to us about before we have to let you go that we haven't covered?
I don't think so. You're new to me, and you've been lovely. It's nice to meet you. I always update everyone. I work on this magazine for kids, so I'll just show you. I don't remember where I left off, but this is issue 10.
Wow. I love the cover art. Do you design that?
Thank you. I don't. Boris Kim, my illustrator, is wonderful. And it's just, this whole thing about just the pandemic and everything, using your manners and etiquette, it's a sneaky way to make you feel happy, because you are helping others, but it's making you feel happy. And it's with this magazine, it's cultivating your own Super Murray inside of you. And that's just the whole thing about manners and etiquette, are to make others feel comfortable whenever you can. So really, I hope people just continue to cultivate that and be nice and positive to other people. Just continue on. This is continuing on, unfortunately, but it's going to come to an end eventually. But let's just keep our manners in mind and be nice to people. Everyone can use some niceness in these days.
You can say that again on repeat. Stacy, thank you so much. It was so nice talking with you this morning and meeting you. So have a great, Wednesday? Rest of your week, weekend, whatever it may be. Thank you so much. You are listening to the Megacast. We're going to take a quick break, and we will be right back to review one of our more recent interviews we had on the show.
How does marijuana affect the teen brain?
Our brains are still developing into our 20s.
With regular use, marijuana can affect teen brain development.
It can affect our brain's circuitry and blood flow and impair thinking, learning, and memory function,
which could hold us back from reaching our potential.
Don't let marijuana mess with your brain.
Get the facts at michigan.gov/drug-free.
Here's one more reason to get the COVID-19 vaccine. It's your shot to win. Anyone 18 years or older in Michigan vaccinated between December 1st, 2020 and July 30th, 2021 is now eligible to win millions in cash prizes, including $1 million jackpots and $50,000 daily prizes. And vaccinated students could win thousands in college scholarships. For eligibility details and to enter, go to mishottowin.com.
Trevor Project is sharing how you can support LGBTQ youth who may be at risk.
It's simple. Just show them that you care. C-A-R-E. Connect. If you noticed any warning signs of suicide from someone you know, reach out to them.
Ask. Ask directly, are you thinking about killing yourself? It might be challenging, but talking about suicide is proven to reduce risk.
Respond. If they open up to you about their suicidal ideation, honor that trust by responding with compassion and empathy.
Empower. Talking openly is a great first step, but now you can empower them with the information and the support they need to improve their situation.
Learn more about how you can show them you care and help prevent LGBTQ youth suicide. Visit trvr.org/care.
To Sofia and Gabriel. Even though these old knees can't follow on your adventure to the forest today, these flowers represent my love. These stitches and threads join us together. And wherever you see a flower, a bird, a beautiful tree, know that my love is with you.
Make the forest part of your story at a park near you. Find one at discovertheforest.org.
Welcome back to the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Tyler Keith alongside Erica Jones. You're listening to us on 89.3 Lakes FM and 88.1 The Biff. You're watching us on Civic Center TV and Birmingham Area Municipal Access on Comcast Channel 15 and AT&T Channel 99 in your local area. You're listening to us and watching us all around the globe on the web, civiccentertv.com, as well as on My Michigan TV, TV.com. That is MYMITV.com. You can also find My Michigan Television or My on your smartphone, your smart TV, as well as throughout the web on demand as well. Well, this COVID-19 has had a major impact on our businesses in a number of different ways over the past year and a half, and especially recently with the situation with unemployment, not only in the state of Michigan, but all throughout the U.S., and the mass of jobs that are open in a number of different sectors definitely is affecting our local restaurants and our local chambers of commerce. And we recently spoke to Birmingham Bloomfield Chamber of Commerce President Joe Bauman, as well as a local restaurateur Bill Roberts, about the impact of the unemployment situation, the labor shortage, and COVID-19 on our local businesses.
We want to bring in Joe Bauman. He's the president for the Birmingham Bloomfield Chamber of Commerce, and Bill Roberts, who is the owner of the Roberts Restaurant Group. You own several restaurants, throughout the Bloomfield, Birmingham area. But before we get to you, Bill, if we can start with you, Joe, thank you again for always being on our show.
Thanks, Ronnie. Thanks for having me back. I appreciate it.
I feel like if we just did clips going back from the beginning to talk about how this virus has evolved and it's impacted our communities. Are you feeling a little bit more hopeful this summer?
Yes, I would say so. We are getting back some sense of normalcy. Obviously, there are still significant challenges. Again, as we've been talking all along, particularly with our soft good retailers and our restaurants, anybody involved in hospitality, hotels are still having some issues with food service. Rental venues are trying to play catch up, trying to fit 2 years into 1 year of weddings and showers. And so we are seeing some improvement, but as Bill, I'm sure, will cover much more effectively than me shortly, there still are some significant challenges that our local businesses are facing.
And with that, Bill, if we can bring you into the conversation, because we know that as a restaurant owner, you are feeling the brunt of those challenges right now. Thank you for being with us. And fill us in, where are your restaurants and are you having to close right now because you can't find enough employees?
Yeah, thank you, Ronnie. We have the Beverly Hills Grill in Beverly Hills, Bill's, which is in Bloomfield Hills, Cafe ML and Roadside Bar and Grill are both in Bloomfield Township. And then Street Side Seafood is in downtown Birmingham. So
I'm a frequent visitor to the B&G, by the way.
Well,
it's in my
thank
neighborhood.
You very much.
So we love that place. We absolutely love it.
Well, I appreciate it. And I think the stat that I've heard is that around the country, 1 out of 6 restaurants closed or did not reopen. And we had 6, and we did not open the Town Tavern in Royal Oak. So we're statistically probably average from that aspect. It's been a tough year, no question. And you know, the term pivot continues to move forward. And, you know, am I hopeful? Yes. I think we're way beyond where we were a year ago, just reopening. However, we do have a huge challenge still ahead. And, you know, if you go back, we opened and actually did fairly well in August, July, August, September, into October. And then late November, the governor shut us down. And that was what really has made it difficult on our businesses in Michigan. After going through the holidays, all of our staff didn't make their holiday money like they usually do. Probably were unsure, as we were, when are we going to reopen? And then they came up with this great plan of outdoor dining, which meant they said a tent would have a top and one side, 3 sides open. That made for not very accommodating dining for our guests. So by the time we reopened in February into March, we lost a lot of staff, and they left for other industries, other parts of the country, et cetera. So since then, we've been very, very tough to hire people. And then, of course, the administration decided that we needed to add $300 more on top of the state's unemployment. So it's been another reason why it's been difficult. Never mind people reassessing their lives after this whole thing. And then childcare has been a difficult piece also, with the opening and closing of schools and et cetera. So it's just made our world difficult. And so we currently, for instance, Beverly Hills Grill has been open for breakfast, lunch, and dinner 7 days a week for over 30 years. Currently, we're serving 5 dinners a week, Tuesday through Saturday. So it's heartbreaking, you know, and we have guests that send us emails like, why aren't you open? Well, we were down to 4 chefs at one point, and we've hired a couple, and I think we're going to be ready, hopefully, to add a day, at least maybe 2 nights. I say 1 night, 2 nights in the near future, but it's really frustrating. And give you an example, we had a sous chef, a woman who'd been with us 9 years, and right after Easter, she left us because she was just tough, tired of the difficulty with childcare, you know, for her kids, and her husband's a chef, and he was going back to a club job, and so she retired from us. So, you know, there's many stories like that where just people left for a good reason for them personally, but not a good reason for us. Right. And it's just made it very difficult. And I don't have a restaurant open for lunch.
Oh my goodness. And
yeah, Bill.
We should point out too, though, when a lot of people are having this argument, well, you know, they should up the wages to $15 an hour. They should do A, B, C, D, and E, and this, that. We should note that if you work for tips, if you're only making $15 an hour, you're probably a really, really, really bad server.
Oh, I know. A couple of weeks ago, one of our servers with their tips, I think it was $4,000 for 2 weeks. Was the take home. So, you know.
Yes. Tyler just looked at me like that can't be. I'm like, I'm telling you, yes. Tyler, we're in the wrong industry.
Apparently.
You know, that's an exception, obviously, but, you know, our guests are very, they're just terrific people. And they want to help our staff and are very generous, and it's been, for every tough, bad, negative story, there's good ones, and we have great guests and great neighborhoods, and we're fine. We're going to make it through. It's just really frustrating because our guests want us open for more hours a week, and we certainly would be if we could.
And what's so challenging, Joe, too, is I should note that what's hard is you're still trying to recover from the pandemic, but yet restaurants are unable to because of the employee shortage right now. And, so many restaurants you go, they've shortened their hours. There's some days they're just like, we can't be open today because we don't have enough staff members to operate. So with that, I feel like, or maybe this might be a question for Joe, is there something that can maybe be done from a chamber standpoint to try to really push for people to continue to go to our restaurants and support our restaurants? Because we were doing it in the beginning of the pandemic, but now that everyone seems to be going back to their life, I feel like they've just lost that momentum of supporting local.
I don't know if it's that as much as it is, for instance, another big thing that was impacting downtowns and downtown businesses and restaurants was the ban on in-office work. And our chamber was part of a statewide coalition that lobbied very hard and very aggressively the governor's office to finally lift that ban and allow people to go back to work. If you look at someplace like downtown Birmingham, Birmingham has 20,000 residents. Downtown Birmingham was not built to just be supported by Birmingham residents. The idea was you'd have this huge influx of daily workers working in the offices that would go to one of Bill's restaurants for lunch, that would shop either before or after they were done with work. And so when we told people they weren't allowed to work in their office, it had a huge impact on foot traffic in downtown. So that was one issue. The second issue is, and I'm sure Bill will agree with this, even before the pandemic, there was a very tight job market in the state of Michigan, and especially in Southeast Michigan. So we went into the pandemic with a worker shortage, and then when you do is exasperated by, childcare issues, healthcare issues, personal safety issues, unemployment issues, it's really just been, dragging this thing on a lot longer than it needs to be. And then frankly, for whatever reason, and this could be another whole show for a whole week, but we still have a significant number of people who have chosen not to be vaccinated. And that's a huge issue too, because if you are a parent and if you have children at home who aren't old enough to receive the vaccine yet, are vulnerable, especially to the Delta strain, and you're a server, or if you're a retail employee, and you know that up to a third of the people coming into the business may not be vaccinated, you're going to think long and hard before you put your children in that kind of jeopardy. And so, if we want to get out of this, we need to have everybody working back in their offices. We need to have everybody vaccinated, and we need to be able to go back to whatever normal is. If we're going to have any chance, if I'm personally going to have any chance of going to one of Bill's restaurants for lunch anytime soon, which I greatly miss, and I lament it every day. So it's not a simple solution for people who think that when the $300 additional unemployment stipend runs out in September, that's going to solve all of our problems. I fear that they're going to be sorry and wrong.
Yeah, I think you're right, Joe. Excuse me. I think it's going to help some, maybe younger kids that are staying home, and it might help us maybe get a dishwasher or two or whatever. But I don't think it's going to change the world after Labor Day. It's just going to take time. And, I think our industry is paying more for the chefs and et cetera. And there are jobs and careers available in our industry, and that's going to continue to grow, but it's going to be a slower growth than we like, and it's going to take time. And you're right, Joe, and 2 years ago, we were having difficulties hiring quality staff, and now it's just at a all-time difficulty. But in going to the downtowns, you're right. I think getting people back in the offices puts more people on the street and gives a vibe to the town and et cetera. We at Streetside have had an extra little challenge with the varsity shop being knocked down and the new building going up, and so that also added to the ability of guests to find us.
Right, but, like they couldn't have done that in the middle of COVID, right, when everything was shut down. That would have been a little bit better.
Yeah, it started right after we shut down in March. No, you're right. It was closer to June when they started, and so it's been a extra little difficulty for us.
So with that, gentlemen, if I can leave you on a positive note, or leave our viewers and our guests on a positive note, Bill, can I ask you, what has been the positive out of the COVID-19 crisis for you and your industry or your businesses?
Well, I think we learned how to do things quickly when we needed to. I've got online ordering at all 5 restaurants that probably would have not been happening right now, although our guests aren't using it as much as we'd like. They still like, I think, a lot of people to talk to a person, but that is one of the issues. I think it's made us a better industry, just worrying about our guests, every little detail in the restaurant, which all of a sudden we had all this PPE and making sure that we were washing our hands more and et cetera, and making a safe environment for our guests. So I think that's made us a better industry, and it's made us value our staff. My goodness, right now they are so doing such a great job for us, our team, and they're working as hard as they can and taking care of our guests. So, all in all, it's still the same basics of our industry, hospitality and food and a great environment, but I think we're looking at all the details even closer than we did in the past.
Yeah, so many people have been saying on social media, give the bonuses and that $300 a week to the people showing up for work, because they are working so hard right now. Please have patience when you go to restaurants or if they're closed. But a good point that you just said, use online. Ordering when you can, because there's nothing worse than being slammed and having to pick up the phone. Try to take that order, which in a restaurant, there's usually a lot of background noise going on as well.
That's true.
So that's such a good point. How about you, Joe? What's been positive for the Chamber?
Well, for the Chamber, so we really had to, and I will use the very overused cliche, pivot ourselves from being an organization that really relied on connecting our members through networking events, professional development events, in-person events, to really ramping up our advocacy on behalf of our members. I couldn't tell you how many hours in the last 18 months, and I know Bill and I have had several conversations about PPP and PPE, but talking to all of our elected officials from local all the way to Washington and making sure they understood the challenges and struggles that people like Bill were facing as a result of this pandemic, and fighting to end the office ban, fighting to expand the PPP, fighting to expand the PPE, and really even in local, talking with the city commission about expanding outdoor dining opportunities for restaurants. And so it's really made us a stronger organization, really understanding and getting a better feel for the daily struggles that our members face and are facing. And I think we are much better positioned now to understand that first, to represent second, and then advocate third on their behalf, because we do have access to people who, just a small business owner may not have the ability to pick up the phone and talk to their member of Congress, or talk to somebody in the governor's office, or their state rep or state senator. And so going forward, that is going to become a critically important one of the major pillars of the Chamber.
Because it's going to continue to evolve, the COVID-19 crisis, because we're not out of it just yet. So that's such a great point, Joe. Hey, Bill, before we let you go, can I ask you how much of this ongoing crisis has impacted your bottom line? Do you have a number?
Our sales, for instance, recently we've been doing 75 to 80% of 2019 sales, which I think is terrific based on our, closed hours or smaller hours of operation. So we're doing, we are charging more than we were a couple years ago, no question. The cost of food is up. And
the cost of fry oil is insane right now.
Everything's expensive. And for instance, at Roadside, we serve the salmon on a piece of wood. Can't remember if it's oak or which type of wood it is. Anyways, we haven't been able to get it for months, and we just received 3 cases yesterday. But that whole supply chain situation is difficult, and crab is incredibly expensive. It's gone nuts. Lobster also. So we're still faced with those sorts of challenges, but even though the labor costs have gone up, we're short of people, so that's worked its way out. And the bottom lines are difficult, because when your sales are 75% of what they used to be, and we had last year, for instance, half the year practically were closed. We're still struggling as an industry to get back to making money and normalcy. So we're in the right direction, no question, and it's just going to take a little more time, like probably another year.
Oh my goodness. Well, we're lucky to have you in our neighborhoods. Like I said, Roadside's one of our favorites. Now I feel like I have to go there tonight. I don't want to go. I cooked last night, so and I'll order online maybe.
Right, we'd appreciate it.
That from a recent edition of the Oakland County Megacast, and we thank, of course, Joe Bauman and as well as Bill Roberts for joining us on the program. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back on the other side, we'll continue to talk about the impact of COVID-19 and our current situation on the local business community. We'll be joined by the chair of the Pontiac Regional Chamber, Damanay Head, following this break.
People are getting out to walk and bike in higher numbers. More vulnerable road users and higher speed traffic can be a dangerous combination. Crash severity has increased, so if you're driving, be sure to slow down and look for people. There's no need to speed. If you're biking, ride with traffic. If you're walking, avoid stepping into the road if possible. If you have to walk in the street, walk facing traffic. Learn more at walkbikedrivesafe.org.
One of the things you can look for in your friends is a change in behavior. These can be big changes, they can be small changes in mood, physical appearance. They may be sleeping less or sleeping more, drinking more, or their eating patterns may be different. One big change that can be pretty obvious is change in motivation. Do they no longer want to play basketball? Do they no longer want to play video games? Now that we're spending more time online and in virtual settings, it's really important to pay attention to the language that your friend is using and the words they're using to communicate.
So when we text our friends, are they taking longer amounts of time to respond? Are they not responding at all? You don't have to be an expert to try to recognize these signs. The second that you feel it in your gut and that you're concerned, that's a second to have the conversation and open the door to what might be going on.
Whatever gets you talking. Here's one more reason to get the COVID-19 vaccine. It's your shot to win. Anyone 18 years or older in Michigan vaccinated between December 1st, 2020 and July 30th, 2021 is now eligible to win millions in cash prizes, including $1 million jackpots and $50,000 daily prizes. And vaccinated students could win thousands in college scholarships. For eligibility details and to enter, go to mishottowin.com.
Welcome back to the Megacast. I'm Tyler Keefe alongside Erica Jones. You're listening to 89.3 WBLD, Orchard Lake, West Bloomfield, Keego Harbor, Sylvan Lake, and 88.1 WBFH, Bloomfield Hills, as we continue through the COVID-19 pandemic with a recent surge in cases throughout the United States due to the spread of the Delta variant. Our business community has had to make yet another set of adjustments in order to keep their doors open, keep their customers and their employees safe, and continue to operate under the conditions that we're in. To talk more about how these businesses have continued to make their adjustments and are making adjustments in our recent times, we're pleased to be joined once again by the chair of the Pontiac Regional Chamber, Damanay Head, on the Oakland County Megacast. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you.
Appreciate having you on. So let's begin with the situation with the Delta variant. Oakland County has now suggested that that local businesses have their customers and their employees go back to wearing masks. We're currently seeing an uptick in Delta variant spread, not only in Oakland County, but all throughout the state of Michigan and the U.S. How are businesses in this present time adjusting to that, as there continues to be that urgency to go back out and get back into some sort of regular life, as they're trying to gain some momentum back from the time that might have been lost over the bulk of the pandemic? How are they making those adjustments at this present moment?
Well, I can tell you a little bit from my perspective in Pontiac that, you have the Crowfoot Ballroom, which is shifted to an outdoor stadium in Lot 9, right off Woodward. So you're seeing, people kind of migrate and integrate towards new business models. Definitely we're experiencing downtown the open districts. So the public open districts in the downtown. So you're seeing more patio versions of restaurants in the downtown area of Pontiac. So Liberty Bar just put a new patio out. Fillmore 13 put a new patio out. The Green Door put a new patio out. So you're seeing those types of things happen in the city of Pontiac. And then, I think people are still a little cautious about going out. I think, we did last summer, we did a pizza drive, which we called Pontiac Pizza Night, for the schools in Pontiac, just to get them to kind of participate with the local restaurants. So pizza costs have gone up. So, last year we're seeing like a 25 to 35% increase in food costs. So I think a couple things are happening. One is the costs are going up and people are getting more conscious of those costs. I think there's some shifts in people's employment that we're seeing. We're talking to manufacturing organizations, and they're experiencing record high sales because they're trying to figure out how to put automation and robotics into businesses where people once were. So on some sides it looks good, on some sides it looks bad, and ultimately, I think we're headed for dramatic change over the next 5 years.
In terms of places where people are gathering into these businesses, places like restaurants, places like music venues, how has this recent situation over the last few weeks, with the increase in case numbers related to Delta variant in the local area throughout the state of Michigan, of course, being a concern, how is that affecting the momentum for these businesses, as for the bulk of the summer, especially since July 1st, when a lot of the state's regulations were relaxed or fully lifted, how is that affecting their continued momentum, for better or for worse, coming out of the pandemic requirement conditions?
Yeah, I think the message is getting out slowly. What the county and the state are saying, I think people are kind of tuning it out in some ways. I think people are still going to see themselves going out, going to venues. I know there's definitely been a conversation in Oakland County, and specifically Pontiac, around returning to mass, right? So, my wife is definitely staying attuned to that, and is like, hey, I know you're out, doing chamber business, but really, the numbers are changing and we need to be more precautious. So I think, the message is starting to get to the community about the precautions that we need to take. I think the impact for businesses is you'll start to see a slowdown. I don't think we've definitely seen it completely slow down yet. But moving forward, kind of the schools are another gauge for us. With we have a number of schools in our district, both charter, public, and private. So we're asking them what their thoughts are, because a number of them did remote only options, and so a number of them are just preparing to do that again.
We're joined by Damanay Head. He is the chair of the Pontiac Regional Chamber, joining us today on the Oakland County Megacast. You can find more information on the Pontiac Regional Chamber at pontiacrc.com. And let's talk a little bit more, Damanay, about the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic and the current conditions on getting employees to return to these businesses. We've heard a lot recently about the worker shortage, about job shortages, about arguments with people that are on unemployment not wanting to come back to work because of the pay situation. They're making more on unemployment. Is the COVID-19 situation impacting how many people are looking to go fill those jobs? Because they're available in our community, and these businesses are desperately, in some cases, looking to fill those positions. And is the current situation making people even more apprehensive than maybe they were before to return to the workplace?
I think that's true. I think the other part is, people saved money during the days of receiving their unemployment or whatever, and some people are really resourceful and had under the table jobs or whatever, and they were still making money and they were still getting unemployment checks. So I think when I talk to some of the banks that we are part of our chamber, they saw savings rates go up and deposits were at a certain level. And I think, from those discussions I've had, they were expecting to see those numbers drop off during the summer, but people were choosing to spend their summer with their family. So, I would expect, coming out of, if nothing changes, we might see an uptick in employment numbers and people going back. I know, people in Pontiac are looking for employees, and it's hard pressed. I think part of what's the most concerning part for me, representing the chamber, the Pontiac Regional Chamber, is we love bringing organizations like Amazon to our community, and we didn't do a good enough job, I think, or a decent enough job to improve the workforce levels when Amazon came in. So Amazon, has 1,500 workers in their delivery services, which also changed the price point, right? So they came in at that $15 an hour price point, where there was other organizations, especially mom and pops, that were between $10 and $14. So like, hey, I could go to Amazon and work for 15. Some people were choosing those options. So I think in some ways it was a great thing for the organization and the city to have Amazon here, and then other ways I think we didn't do enough planning to build a more robust pipeline of employees, and so I think we're now having to do that work, and we're a part of working with Oakland County Michigan Works to ramp up and improve the pipeline.
We're joined by Damanay Head on the Oakland County Megacast. He is the chair of the Pontiac Regional Chamber with us today. And Damanay, I see that currently ongoing until August 20th, the Regional Chamber is supporting through with the Liberty Bar a school supplies drive. You have a number of other events going on that I'm seeing on your chamber's Facebook website. Would you care to give us a little bit of an overview of what's coming up with the Pontiac Regional Chamber and how people can maybe support some of these local organizations, these local businesses, and the chamber itself?
Yeah, so we August 19th, we'll be at Center for Success, which is 245 East Rundell in the Junior Modern Housing District. If you haven't been to the Junior Modern Housing District, it's a great thing to look at. It was built, I think, in the 40s. But slate roofs, beautiful homes. It was a great addition to Pontiac, and there's a small little garden, and there's I think 3 or 4 parks in that community. But we're going to have an event. McAllister Caterpillar Rental will be part of that event, as well as Auk Construction, and we have a number of vendors coming out to that event, where it's really just a homage to the summer, right? It's like, give me some more summer. So we're handing out s'mores to the families, and come take your picture with the Caterpillar. I believe we're gonna have a front loader there. So it'll be a really great time for families to come out and just relax and play games and meet with different vendors. We'll have all the schools there participating. And so, that's probably one of the biggest events. It's kind of our homage to summer, saying goodbye and, making sure that people have a really great time. and it's part of our series called Pontiac's Best Summer Ever 2021. And so, we had Pontiac Pizza Night, which is with Fillmore 13 Brewery, which is our local pizzeria. We also had Sizzling Summer with Harold's Italian Ice, which is our local Italian ice from Philadelphia. The person moved here from Philadelphia, and they make it in Pontiac at one of our local churches. So it's an amazing opportunity to participate with our local vendors in our summer. So Sylvia's Catering will be doing our s'mores, and we're really excited about the opportunity to participate with families in our community.
As I'm listening to you talk, there are clearly so many great things going on in Pontiac, but we've been talking to you for a while throughout the whole pandemic. I just want to know, where's your head at compared to where it was a year ago today? More in general, just how are you feeling about things? When you wake up every day now as opposed to last summer, what's the difference in where you're at? Do you feel good about things, honestly?
I think I have had a different perspective. I've been running the chamber for the last 5 years, and one of the things that I looked at, given my background as an engineer, I ended up in this community because of engineering. I worked for Quaker Chemical, and then I ended up working for General Motors as a contract engineer in their Warren transmission plant, and also their Livonia engine plant, which no longer exists. And so part of it was like, we're transforming as a community and as a world, right? And so I think from my perspective, I had a different viewpoint and vantage point of where we were headed. I think, if you listen to what Steve Case said, he's in his book, he talked about the third wave, right? So the first wave was the infrastructure came into the internet. The second wave was the social networks. And then the third wave is everything's online, right? And so I think we're in the middle of everything's online. And that's just been my kind of perspective over the last 5 years. So when you ask me what do I think about when I get up, I'm like, e-commerce. That's what I think about. Like, did I sell something today? When I look at where we're headed, I'm like, one of our members canceled an event. I'm like, you don't cancel an event, you make it a hybrid, right? Like, I think there's just these transition points that are happening that we have to all get accustomed to. Like, hey, we can't assume that we're going to be able to do everything face to face anymore, and we have to actually start using the networks that have been invented, the internet and social channels and all those things, to build better and stronger businesses. So where I'm leading from the chamber is like, look, we just need to get on the on-ramp. This is the on-ramp to where we're headed, and the on-ramp is basically like, you're going to have a hybrid business, right? And you need to be able to basically get your message across, regardless of whether you're meeting face to face or you're going to be remote. So when I wake up, it's like, okay, how can I help business owners like improve their systems to reach their customers or reach more customers? Like, what are the channels that we're using to help people find new customers? So one of the things that's totally supported, I think, our chamber members is changing our coffees from a face-to-face to a remote. They don't have to get up at 7 or 6 o'clock in the morning to get to a coffee. They can just wake up, roll out of the bed, push the button on, and find customers. And so we're really interested in providing more solutions like that to our members of the chamber, and leading the city of Pontiac in that way, that hey, we're not going back to normal. That's not happening. We need to actually get more integrated with how commerce will be delivered in the future. And I think, Amazon's kind of leading the way in that. And so we're happy to have them here in the city and, partner with them to make that vision possible.
Damanay Head with us on the Oakland County Megacast. He is the chair of the Pontiac Regional Chamber. Just another minute or two with you before we say goodbye today. Is there anything else that would be important for our audience to know about the business community in Pontiac and the greater area, or any other information that you believe would be interesting or important for us to know today?
Yeah, I'm super excited. We've launched a new campaign called Pontiac Reads, which is a literacy campaign. And so we partnered with Oakland ISD, Oakland University, General Motors, the Balmer Group. General Motors, the Balmer Group, and United Way contributed the first $150,000 to the campaign. So our goal is that every child will be able to read in the city of Pontiac, and we have some really great partners to make that happen. We're really excited about bringing all the school systems together. under the Pontiac United Education Coalition and the work we've done over the last 18 months since the pandemic has started. And we think that work will continue. And, we don't know how it's going to shape out this fall, but, our hope is everybody will be back in school and they'll finish the whole school year in school. And if we're not, we're preparing for that. So if you want to find out more about the Pontiac United Education Coalition or Pontiac Reads, you can go to the Pontiac Regional Chamber website, pontiacrc.com. And then we're just super excited about the number of restaurants that are doing really innovative things. Liberty Bar is probably one of the oldest bars in the county. And, we're excited about Brett, who's done a really great job to reinvent and reimagine that bar. And then Fillmore 13, the brewery is, they're still chugging along, and, we got a lot of great things to come. And probably the most important thing is Motorbella, right? So everyone's super excited about Motorbella coming. And, we're going to have an event not in Motorbella, but definitely adjacent to it, right next door. And we're excited to bring people to that event. So I'll be looking for more information about that. And we're just, we're chugging along and making sure we keep our members engaged and finding new members.
Well, we appreciate having you on today.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Damanay Head, chairperson for the Pontiac Regional Chamber. Find more information about the chamber and all the businesses involved there in the city of Pontiac, pontiacrc.com. We'll take a quick break, and on the other side, we'll go across the county to another local business that is taking art into the people's lives and creating individual pieces and giving people an opportunity to tap into their creativity right here in Oakland County. That coming up after this break.
Today, it is easier than ever to join Michigan's Organ Donor Registry and help build a bridge of hope for organ, tissue, and eye donation. Just one person can potentially save or help improve the lives of up to 75 people. By joining, your legacy could be the gift of life. Sign up today at michigan.gov/SOS or at any of the more than 145 Secretary of State self-service stations located across Michigan. Be part of Michigan's Bridge of Hope by adding your name to the Organ Donor Registry.
How does marijuana affect the teen brain?
Our brains are still developing into our 20s.
With regular use, marijuana can affect teen brain development.
It can affect our brain's circuitry and blood flow and impair thinking, learning, and memory function,
which could hold us back from reaching our potential.
Don't let marijuana mess with your brain.
Get the facts at michigan.gov/drug-free.
Who is struggling right now?
I am.
My son is.
Many are struggling with anxiety, depression, and substance use. Before it becomes a crisis, reach out to MyCal, the Michigan Crisis and Access Line for free confidential support 24/7. Available in the Upper Peninsula and Oakland County. Just call or text 1-844-44-MyCal or chat online at michigan.gov/MyCal. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Welcome back to the Megacast. I'm Tyler Keefe alongside Erica Jones. You're watching us on Civic Center TV and Birmingham Area Municipal Access, as well as on Facebook, facebook.com/CivicCenterTV15, facebook.com/LakesFM, and all throughout the state of Michigan and around the world on My Michigan TV, a free Michigan-centric streaming station. You can find that on their website, mymitv.com, mymitv.com, and it's also on the App Store, on the Google Play Store for Android. It's on Android TV, it's on Apple TV, on your smart TV, on your Roku. You can find My Michigan Television almost anywhere and find content from all across the state of Michigan on any place or any event or any news that's happening all throughout our state right there. My Michigan TV, or My joins us each and every day on the Megacast. And we talk about innovation with some of our partners such as My, and the same goes for innovation in our business community, as one local businesswoman has started a franchise here in the local area that helps combine art with inspiration. We talked to her recently on an edition of the Megacast.
You see these things on Pinterest and you want to do them and you mark them and you put them to a board, but then they just kind of sit there and la la land. But you can make your Pinterest dreams become a reality just by going to Pinspiration in Berkley. Jenna Hance with us here on the Megacast. Great to have you with us. How are you?
Hi, well, hello. I'm doing wonderful. We have such a fun time here at Pinspiration. It's always a great day here.
I will say, because Pinterest, there are so many things on Pinterest. How do you pick and choose? Is it pretty much just DIY crafting?
Oh, so Pinspiration is a DIY crafting studio. That is what we're here for. We have dozens of samples that are out in the studio for people to get inspired by. And then in addition to all of the really cute and creative samples that we have out, we also have all of the tools that you need, all of the embellishments that you need, all of the paints, glues, materials, as well as helpful tutorials, and a really great staff here to help make sure that nobody ends up with a Pinterest fail. We want everyone to come away with something that they're going to be really happy with here at the studio.
I've had so many of those, by the way, the Pinterest fails.
And then we have all the extra materials at home, and what are we going to do with the extra stuff? And sometimes, we just need what we need to be able to give that project a try. Yep.
What I love about this, Jenna, too, is because it's not only about having all the additional supplies, which the cost really starts to add up, but it's
really
the
does.
storage of everything that you have left over.
It is. So luckily we have a very organized storeroom in the back of the studio here where I keep everything sort of kitted together. And when you decide on what type of a project you want to make, it's easy for me to bring out just what you need. And then anything that you want to use in the studio to help make it special, whether that's our glitter or the rhinestones or the jewels or the gems, whatever you might need, we've got it here in the studio for you to be able to make it something personal.
Glitter has been banned from my house.
Well, it is not being here. You can get all the glitter you want on the floor here, no problem.
It's dangerous.
Very
Glitter is very dangerous.
I will say, I made tutus over the 4th of July for our volleyball team, and they were red, white, and blue. But of course, the red glitter tool looks so much cuter, and it was fluffier. Sure. So I had to add it.
But it gets everywhere, and we love it here. I love a nice sheen of glitter on the floor here at Pinspiration.
So with that, Jenna, before we kind of jump into how you guys are doing through the pandemic, how is this a franchise? Is this a new thing that's popping up across the country?
It is. There are about 23 stores that are open throughout the United States, and we are so fortunate to be the first one opening here in Michigan. So right here in Berkley, Southeast Oakland County, we have landed the first Pinspiration here in Michigan.
So how did you go about wanting to do this?
Gosh, what a great question. So my background has really nothing to do with arts and crafts other than that I've always been a DIY lover. I really have since the beginning. I studied human resources. I was a human resources manager for about 15 years.
No way.
And And I went back to graduate school at Western Michigan University, and I was taking a course on designing for meaningful work as a part of my organizational change leadership program that I'm doing. And in that, I had to write an essay about if you could do anything, what would you want to do? And I kept writing about owning a DIY crafting studio where it was very self-directed and there was just a little bit of everything for anyone to try. And within a couple of days of turning in that essay, there was a sponsored Facebook ad saying that they were looking for franchisees in our market. When I watched their ad, I just knew I had to throw my hat in the ring. I knew that, Berkley would be a perfect space for this. And with my business background and my husband's background in arts and photography, we knew that we would be able to just knock it out of the park here.
So how long have you been open?
That's a great question. We officially opened our doors for our soft opening over Memorial Day weekend. However, we purchased our franchise agreement back in October of 2019, so before things got a little crazy with the pandemic. So we came back from training in Arizona from the flagship store at the end of February, and within just a matter of weeks, everything really started to close down. So we had a long time where we had a lot of inventory just delivered to our home. I had a long time to make a lot of the samples for in the studio. It was great to have my kids involved in getting the samples kind of pulled together. And then construction took construction took its sweet time as well. And then, we were able to open our doors finally Memorial Day weekend of this year to such a warm reception within the community. It has just been wonderful to see how people are just ready to come together and laugh and create and do something out of the house.
Jenna Hans with us here on the Megacast. She is the owner at the Pinspiration over in Berkley. And because, Jenna, you are in a great community. Berkley is a very tight-knit, great community. But anything, you put Pinterest connected with anything, people are going to go crazy.
Yeah, they want to try. They're willing to try. And what I love is seeing how creative kids can be here, people of all ages and abilities. I think our most frequent customers right now are grandparents bringing their grandkids and just coming and crafting and getting silly here together.
Wow. Huh. So how does it work? Do people need to make reservations? Is it kind of like, because we did see over the past few years, there's been a lot of those pop-ups of like the board and brush type stores. So is it kind of a similar format? How does this work?
Similar in some ways, very different in others. So at our studio, when you make a reservation, you're reserving time in the studio. I don't need to know ahead of time what project you want to do or what it is that you'd like to try to create. You're welcome to have that in mind, but if you just need to come and get inspired, we have anything you need here to create any of the projects that you see. So you reserve studio time. A lot of time our main studio is open for walk-in crafting as well, which is great on a rainy day when we hadn't planned for, a specific activity. It's nice for families to be able to just come in and find something else to do for a couple of hours. So people make a reservation for studio time, and then everyone gets to sit down and enjoy their self-directed DIY projects together. So somebody might want to be painting some wine glasses. Somebody else in their group might want to do string art or a self-guided canvas. We also pour candles here. We do beautiful acrylic pours. So everybody can pick what it is that they want to do and make sure that they're making something either for themselves or as a gift for someone else in a way that's really personal and special.
This kind of reminds me of like the food truck of DIY, because typically if you go to like a DIY or like the board and brush place, they have very specific projects that you're making.
Right.
Yeah, and here it's like a food truck. So maybe, my girlfriend wants to do this, but I want to do that. So we can all just pick and choose and still have a good time.
Yeah, and then still get to spend time together. And then you don't have to kind of listen to me lecture or teach a class or teach a workshop over the time you're trying to spend with your friends or family. We do offer classes and workshops, absolutely. I have a reoccurring Wednesday vision board class. That's a lot of fun. We have a Technique Tuesday class. That's fun. Sometimes people need a reason to come out and get together. But most of the things that we have in the studio you're able to do just as a walk-in or a reservation.
So how does the pricing work with this? Is it based on how many materials you use?
So it's all based by per project. I have everything in the studio priced out anywhere between $15 and $70, depending on what it is that you want to do. We have a really great space in the studio that makes us really unique called our splatter room. And that has a reservation that you reserve by the hour. It starts at $20 a person, and you're able to kind of add on or upgrade as you'd like to. So we try to keep it reasonable for families in the area.
So if I can ask you, because as someone who's been on Pinterest from the very beginning, I remember actually doing a story when I was with Fox 2, because it was so new and people were like, what is this Pinterest thing? And doing a story and doing the interviews and interviewing like a lawyer about the legalities of some of the things being posted on Pinterest and the boards and all of that became an issue in the beginning. But it's it has really evolved over time. Pinterest is for anyone that's a big Pinterest follower. So how do you try to pick and choose what you're going to stock your store with there?
Question. So our Pinspiration is a franchise. And so as a franchise, we as a group kind of have some core pieces that we know are popular in all of the markets that everybody on Pinterest is pinning and wanting to try. So all of us carry those core projects, and then we carry new things seasonally too. So a few times a year, I'm bringing in new projects. We're phasing out older projects. bringing in stuff special for the holidays or back to school. And so we pay attention. We kind of look at Pinterest and some of the metrics on what's trending on there. What are people pinning? What are people interested in doing? And then our franchise group is wonderful about helping to pull together kind of what that materials list might look like and how we can best help our customers with their tutorials. But we have a lot of creative liberty too on what it is that we carry and how we style our studios and what it is we want to bring to our local communities.
So since you're just really starting to get off the ground, what has been the reception? Have you been pretty busy?
We have been bananas. It's been so busy. It's really wonderful. You know, it takes, I felt like it was a big risk to start a business, let alone start a business during a pandemic. But the reception that we've had from the community has been just wonderful. Our splatter room is typically booked out every hour, on the hour, all day, for days ahead of time.
Wow.
Parties are starting, the party reservations are starting to roll in. Word of mouth is really getting out there. We have people coming in and setting up bridal showers and baby showers and team building events and corporate events here. So people are really, really excited about it. I'm so excited that we have this space and we have it in the space that we do and at the time that we decided to be able to open.
Do you expect that this franchise is really going to continue to grow over the next few years?
I absolutely do. I know that there's other studios coming up in Michigan in the very near future. People are creative by nature, and this is such a collaborative environment. I just think it's going to continue to grow. I know that there's 44 more stores that are slated to open throughout the U.S. in the coming year or to 2 years. So you will see more and hear more about Pinspiration. Absolutely.
That is so fun. I will say it's probably good for you, though, all the rain that we're having. You know, for us, like, it chases us off the lakes, but it chases you indoors, so it's probably good for you with the kids, right?
Yeah, we have excited kids come in here all the time. They're like, I want to do this. I want to make that faux aquarium. I want to do this guided canvas. And I always say, you know, it's a beautiful day. Go outside and ride your bike today. Come back on the next rainy day. And you know, and then we can spend some time to do it. Absolutely. Yeah, the rain is nice for us. I'm hoping the same will be true when it starts to get a little snowy too.
So what are some of your favorite projects that people are doing right now?
Yeah, so our splatter room is always a hit. I won't lie about that. That is always a great spot. We suit you up in a splatter suit, some goggles, some shoe covers, and a hairnet, and then you just get to throw paint around Jackson Pollock style at your canvas, at the walls, at your friends or family that you're in the room with. That's a hit. The other piece that I really love here are all of our guided canvases. And the reason I have a sample here, I'll show you. The reason that I love our guided canvases here is because you can personalize this however you want. If you want your rainbow to be different colors, if you want to add, I don't know if you can see all the glitter that I've added on this one, but if you want to add extra glitter, you can. If you want to change any of the details in there, you're able to because you've got all the access to what you need here in the studio. Another piece that is really popular around here with our kiddos is our faux aquarium. And they turn out so cute and they load it full of treasures and fun little pieces. And then they get to take this home in their own personalized way. A lot of the grown-ups around here really like doing the string art. I've got a couple samples up there, but I have one of my favorites here that I put together. And these are a great collaborative piece. And so what we've done here is we pre-paint our board, and then you add your pattern on here. This one I did as a hot air balloon. And then you're hammering in all of these nails. You can sort of see it's got a little texture to it. And then weaving all of our embroidery threads around to make it look exactly how you want it to look. So it's a great way to create some really neat memories here. And people are able to email me and say, you know, oh, I want to create a string art, but I want it to look in this certain way. And we're able to put together a template that's going to be exactly what they want to do.
So I did get one of those string art things from a girlfriend for Christmas. And I hate to say it's still sitting in the box. But on something like that, how long did it take you to do that?
Oh gosh. So, you know, a lot of times with this string art, people start them and then they're welcome to come back in the studio and finish them up later. That string art piece took me about 5 hours to complete, start to finish. I did it over the course of 2 days. I sort of painted one day and did my hammering, and then I came back and did the stringing the next day.
So since you've been open, how many Pinterest fails have you seen? There's got to be a few.
I I'm going to say 0, because if I start to see it go off the rails, I'm very happy to just sort of, we're going to pause. We're going to start over. You know, I have prepared here what I call an acrylic pour. And sometimes the colors just don't lay right on the canvas. And so it's pretty easy for us to kind of scrape that, start over, and really make sure that people are going to be happy with what they've got.
So, Jenna, just another minute or two here with you on the Megacast. Any advice that you would give to someone else that was kind of taking a leap of faith to start a business during the pandemic?
Yeah, you know, I would say do it. I always say with Pinspiration, like, we have to just go with gusto, right? This is how we do an acrylic pour. You just have to have some confidence. You have to trust in the process. You have to be willing to see that you're going to make something beautiful for your life, right? And so in the studio, we're making really beautiful art pieces, just like this. Isn't that amazing? Don't these just turn? Look at that. Oh. So I say with anything, you've just got to trust yourself, trust your creativity. The community will meet you. That's for sure. The community will absolutely kind of meet you where you're at. If you can find something you're passionate about, you should go forward with it.
That was so cool.
Wasn't that the coolest thing? You got to come in and try one of these for yourself. They turn out stunning. They absolutely turn out amazing.
And what's great about that is you have a piece of art that not only can you hang on your wall, it costs so much cheaper than going to the store, but there's a story behind it as well. That is so awesome.
Absolutely. And you can, you know, we can blend anything together. We can make it look exactly how you need it to. And they're so fun to do. And this is something, you know, you can do it 5 years old, and it's going to be something that's like a real art piece.
Oh my God, that's so awesome. See, it's so fun having you on with us.
Oh, well, thank you so much for the opportunity.
Well, we hope that you guys have continued success. And this, you know, it's a leap of faith to start a business like this, especially when we come from that 9-to-5 world. But on top of that, doing it in a pandemic and sticking with that vision. So we hope that this really just takes off for you.
I hope so too. Thank you so much for the opportunity to connect today.
Oh, you'll be seeing me in person one day. And again, Jenna, can you tell what's your location and what's your website so people, if they have to book?
Yeah, so we are located at 2733 Coolidge Highway, right in Berkley, Michigan. And our website is pinspiration.com/Berkley.
That from a previous edition of the Megacast with Jenna Hance from Pinspiration over in Berkley. We appreciate it. Just about 15 minutes left in the Megacast, and we're pleased to be joined next to wrap up the show with the Superintendent of the Avondale School District, Dr. James Schwarz, joins us now on the show. Doctor, thanks for being with us today.
Sure. Thank you for having me.
Appreciate having you on. So we're getting close to the beginning of the school year, and of course now we're navigating the situation in the local area throughout the state of Michigan and the U.S. in terms of the spread of the Delta variant. How is that, if at all, impacting the plans as we approach the beginning of the school year in Avondale?
Well, you know, of course, it's impacting plans as far as our mitigation procedures go, you know, how we're going to be starting the school year. It's not disrupting the plans in terms of what we're looking at instructionally, in terms of being back 5 days a week, you know, full schedule, full in seat, back to quote unquote as much normalcy as possible. So from an instructional standpoint, from a professional development standpoint, from an operations standpoint, it's not having much of an effect, you know, but we certainly we'll be continuing with most of our mitigation procedures that we had in place for the prior school year as we move forward that have become, frankly, you know, sort of part and parcel to just how we're used to operating. We had ended the school year last year in person from about mid-March to the end of the school year. And so, again, many of these protocols have just become second nature now. You know, when you're talking about hand washing breaks and you know, contact tracing or policies regarding visitors or non-essential staff. I mean, those are just things that now we've essentially become accustomed to that will just be rolling over into the new year.
We're joined by Dr. James Schwarz. He is the Superintendent of Avondale Schools with us today on the Megacast. So just to clarify for those that are tuning in that have children in the Avondale School District or will have them begin in the school district this year, what are the policies at all three levels, elementary, middle, and high school, and other facilities for staff, for faculty, for students, and so on and so forth, in terms of vaccination requirements or mask mandates and so on?
So I'll start with the mask mandate. So with that, our Board of Education is highly recommending that we have masks for employees and students, particularly for those individuals that are not vaccinated or that have some type of immunocompromise that would warrant extra precautions. So they are highly recommending that masks be worn at this time. That could change as time goes on, and we see, what if any impacts there will be with the Delta variant as that may or may not become more pervasive in our area. So, we're watching closely the local statistics in regards to the impacts of COVID transmissions. In our neck of the woods, so to speak, it's quite low at this point. We also acknowledge that Oakland County is about 70% vaccinated for those that are eligible for vaccination, which is on the higher side of most areas in the country. And we know that childhood transmissions of COVID, again, particularly in our area, are quite low. We certainly weighed, the CDC recommendations, the MDHHS recommendations, the World Health Organization, the American Academy of Pediatrics. I mean, everybody in the medical community has their opinions, and certainly we're in tune with all of those, and we're abiding by the highly recommended statements by primarily our CDC and MDHHS, which say masks are highly recommended. So we're essentially mimicking what they are touting. There is an order by the CDC regarding public transportation, which includes school buses, where students will have to be masked on school buses. So in that venue, we will be requiring masks as they prescribe. So, and again, we'll be keeping our eye on what is happening locally, because of course, in those recommendations by those entities, they say you should require your mitigation efforts depending on level of transmission in your local community. And so we are abiding by that as well. So every day we are looking at those statistics. So for now, with masks, it is highly recommended in our school district, and I believe in our neighboring districts as well. Pretty much most of Oakland County is adhering to that highly recommended format for starting school, with the mandate for school transportation, school buses, and we monitor that very closely. As far as other types of mitigations that we are in tune with, vaccinations, we are highly encouraging folks for vaccinations. We do not have a vaccination mandate, but certainly we are highly encouraging those vaccinations for those that are eligible to receive them, both on the part of families and of staff. In school operations, hand washing breaks, as I mentioned to earlier, will still continue. We will have regular hand washing breaks through the day, K-12. Social distancing, we're going to work to adhere to as much of social distancing towards 3 feet as possible. That would be, more or less dictating traditional seating in classrooms, traveling in hallways, and cafeteria as students, consume their lunch and so on. So we are striving to that 3 feet where we can throughout the school day and each of the levels. For those that are choosing to wear masks, that we will continue with mask breaks So to offer opportunities for kids to step away and be able to remove their mask for some time. We are not going to start the year with daily screening as we did last year. Should transmissions necessitate us to return back to daily screening procedures of students and staff, we will do so. But as of right now, we are not instituting that. The contact tracing, we will continue with contact tracing as we had following the Oakland County Health Department's protocols, as we have last year. So that will continue with any exposures. International travel, any folks that are traveling internationally will be following the CDC guidelines regarding that and the quarantines surrounding the international travel, particularly for those who are unvaccinated. Visitors, any non-essential personnel, we are discouraging from being in buildings. Again, the less folks we have coming into the buildings that don't need to be there at this point in time, the better. So we're discouraging, non-essential employees or non-essential folks in the buildings as we start the year. Large-scale assemblies for students, we're also discouraging. That would be like all school assemblies. So smaller assemblies are fine where students are able to space out within a gymnasium or a cafeteria or auditorium. But whole school, close quarter type assemblies, we're discouraging. We are continuing with our sanitization and cleaning schedules, where we are sanitizing particularly high touch surfaces frequently throughout the day, doorknobs, handles, railings, all of those types of high touch areas. We'll have multiple cleanings throughout the day. And of course, we have masks and sanitizers in the classrooms available for students as they need and wish. So, those are a majority of our mitigation strategies as we start the school year.
At this point in time, with all the mitigation strategies you've just told us about, what's been the reaction from parents and families?
Again, it's a mix. No matter what decisions you make, you're going to make people unhappy. This is such a politically sensitive issue, unfortunately, that no matter what you decide to do, you're making people mad and you're making some happy. And, the feedback is largely, and I'll say increasingly, is folks appreciate the personal choice. Frankly, we're hearing more from the folks that are liking the personal choice when it comes to masks, and their choice as a family to do that or not do that. Again, we're not going to please everybody with what decisions are made. So, we are following closely with what the CDC language is and the MDHS language is, and abiding by that sense of choice that they are also following through with at this point in time.
We're joined by Dr. James Schwarz on the Megacast. Doctor, just another couple of minutes left before we say goodbye today. A great article earlier today from Bridge, Michigan Magazine about the budget situation, how it relates to in-person learning this year. There's not that, as it's quoted in here, maximum flexibility that gives districts necessarily the ability to switch from the in-person learning to all virtual. They're essentially going back to the previous requirements for in-person instruction in the schools. In the event that there are outbreaks in individual schools or throughout the school district, how is the budget situation impacting the school district's response to those? And is there any worry that potential outbreaks could impact what already is severely impacted funding due to COVID?
Mm-hmm. So if there's a chance that, we are forced back into a remote situation, we are prepared to do so. From a budgetary perspective, we were able to utilize the federal stimulus dollars that we received last year via, the COVID monies, so to speak, to buy one-to-one technologies for students. So we have all those. So if the need is there to switch, we have those devices where we can activate those and move into that realm rather quickly. Teachers also have the experience of teaching remotely. So making that switch in a rather quick fashion will be certainly a lot more seamless than it was when we had to do it the first time back in 2020. We have a lot of seasoned folks that are skilled, and can make that transition rather quickly. We also have schedules and mock-ups of schedules that we can flip to rather quickly that we've created throughout time, particularly these last 18 months. So both from a staffing and an effort perspective, as well as from a budget perspective, I think we're well equipped to do so. We're very hopeful that never comes to be again, and certainly we're working toward that end to not have that happen. And certainly, as we continue to encourage folks to get vaccinations and get out there, and because we really don't want that to be a reality. But we are prepared in the event we have to.
We appreciate having you on. 5 seconds left in today's program. We appreciate it, Dr. James Schwarz. That will do it for today's edition of the Megacast. We'll return tomorrow morning at 10 a.m.